So Hannah, we can start, yeah? Good to go. Okay. Welcome everybody. We are here at the Licensing Subcommittee for a hearing of a TENS, a temporary event notice. And this is the first time we've done one live for a while. So we might be jumping around on the procedure a little bit. And normally we are in a much smaller room. So forgive the hugeness of this room. So today we have before us a TENS application for Bay 56, 2-4 Acklam Road, W10. And the committee deciding it today is myself. I'm Councillor Sof McVeigh. I am a councillor for Brompton and Handstown Ward. But I also have to say that I have been a trustee for Westway Trust for 2 years post-Grenfell, and I stopped about a year ago. So I know the area pretty well, and I also live quite close. And joining me on the committee, we also have...
I'm Councillor Malcolm Spalding. I'm the Councillor for Earls Court Ward, and I also have to declare an interest that a few years ago I was a Westway Trust trustee for about 3 years, but I've had no contact with them for over 3 years.
Thank you. And so we have the procedure on this yellow bit of paper before us. So I think we'll just get going. Licensing, can you please remind me, do you introduce a TEN report or not? If you just want to point to a couple of salient points would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Just to ensure that everybody has the correct papers, there was a committee report that was circulated that stated the 23rd of September, which gives the application and the objection notice. And then there were some additional papers, one being the event management plan, which you should have before you, and the other being an email with a map attached of an audio analysis breakdown. So those are the papers that you're being asked to consider. As you've said, Madam, this is an application for a temporary event notice. We're here to hear the objection made by Mr. Mahaffey. He is one of only 2 parties who can object to a temporary event notice. The other one is the police, and they have not objected in this case. The temporary event notice that is before you is for the...
Sorry, can you speak into that?
Sorry. Let me just get a bit close. The temporary event notice that is before you is for one day, which is Sunday the 3rd of October between midday and 9 p.m. And it's for the sale of alcohol and regulated entertainment. The hours that they're proposing is from midday until 9 p.m. There are 2 options open to you here. One is that you can take no action, which basically allows the temporary event notice to go ahead, or you can issue a counter notice, which would effectively cancel the temporary event notice. There is no provision in the Act for you to add any conditions to the temporary event notice.
Thank you very much, and thank you for clarifying what can and can't happen. So now we're going to ask... I'm just looking at the procedure here. Do we get a chance for the applicant to put their case? Or do we just go straight into the questions? Because the committee's obviously read the papers.
The parties can put their case.
Okay,
yeah.
Perfect. So would you please introduce yourself, and you have up to 10 minutes to say why you'd like this TENS. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Rowan Scully. I'm the event promoter. What is going on is that we are trying to establish a regular Sunday daytime event, and we're doing that by means of temporary event notices at the moment to establish and to show the council and to show the environmental officer, Keith, that we are taking every step possible to ensure that we're not a public nuisance. You know, we approach this from a very responsible and respectful manner to the community, and we have a lot of support from the local community as well. You know, the rest is in the event management plan of, you know, this event management plan was put together, it would normally be for a much bigger event. And it was done just to show that we're taking this seriously. You know, we're not messing around. We don't want to cause problems, and we want to work with the council to make sure we produce and hold successful events without any incident, and that we're responsible. And we also have, you know, we've taken steps, we've done sound analysis, we have equipment that allows us to measure while music's playing. We can remotely control our console, the desk that controls the music, from, you know, wirelessly from far away using a tablet, and we can measure the sound, the SPL, the sound pressure level at those locations. And not only that, we can also see the frequency spectrum that we're picking up there, so we can attenuate things like bass, standing at the point where we're actually listening from. You know, I mean, I don't know what more we could really do aside from possibly increasing the sound treatment within the building and making improvements to the building, which will happen in due course. But there is a process where the Westway Trust have been making improvements to the building, like updating the fire escapes and all these sorts of important elements that have kind of been left, you know, over time. I'm not sure of all the details of what's been going on there in the past. I'm only concerned with what's going on now and doing it the right way. And I think that's all I can really say. I mean, there's nothing more to it than that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We've got a couple of questions. You mentioned Westway Trust. So how is the relationship between yourself and Westway Trust and approvals and working with them on this event?
The situation with the Westway Trust is that the tenants, there's three main, the tenants that are there, which are Niles, Eric, and MZ, they're the people who deal with the Westway Trust. I don't have a history of dealing with the Westway Trust, although I am now starting to deal with them because we're looking at a festival that we want to do as well. But at the moment, I've been dealing with the current tenants, and they've been liaising with the Westway Trust, where I've asked them that they need to make sure that they have the correct fire safety in place. They've then liaised with the Westway Trust. The Westway Trust have installed new fire alarms. They've started refitting the fire doors with new push-out locks, and they're doing things. And then, you know, and see, I'm not really the tenant of the building, so it's not really my place to be dealing with the Westway Trust. I'm just using it for temporary events at the moment until we can hopefully get a premises license, in which case it will become more, I'll have more contact with the trust.
Okay, understood. Thank you. Councillor Spalding?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I've got a number, about 6 questions, because this is our only chance to talk to you directly and get an idea of what you're doing. And is it Mr. Scully or Mr. Roger?
Mr. Scully, I have 2 surnames here. Mr. Scully, it's fine.
Mr. Scully. So we were very interested in this, TENS. Of course, you will need some document with Westway to show that you can actually put this on in their premises. And I'm not sure if they're going to give it to you free or you're going to pay for it, but you'll need to sort that out. Can you give us some idea of the numbers that will be attending?
Yeah, so the previous event that we did as a test, we did a previous event on the 10th of September, where we did audio tests on an actual event. We had 125 people in the building. The building can hold a lot more than that. And the ingress and egress is much higher rated. I mean, even, 300 in that space is still well within guidelines, well within. We don't expect that many people, to be honest. I mean, we'd be happy to have 200 people. That would be amazing. And that's where we stand.
So your
regards-
target is 200?
Yeah, I mean, the target is, I would like to have more, but I'm being realistic, is that we will see 200 people is realistic.
Okay, you expect 200, but what's your maximum target?
300 is,
300.
yeah.
What would happen if more than 300 people tried to jam into the space?
We wouldn't allow them in. We have we have two SIA door supervisors at the gate and at the main entrance that each have clickers, electronic counters, and they count in and out.
Good.
So,
Yeah. Okay, so that 300, I'm thinking about public safety.
and that's ambitious, I think. but it may get there if we continue.
In your management plan, you refer to the fact that Westway Trust does have public liability insurance, but if something happened due to your negligence, do you have adequate insurance?
Yes, Performance Insurance, which is the same company I've been using for my film productions, and they grant me, I have an account with them, and they grant me ad hoc short-term insurance cover when I need it.
For public liability?
Public liability, fire and theft, employer's liability, the whole deal.
Oh, good, excellent. So that led me to my next question. You said we do this, we have that. On the front page of your management plan, you are unforeseen management.
Yes.
But on the last page, where you have this aerial view, you're called Unforeseen Productions.
Yeah, so the company that we formed is called Unforeseen Management. Myself and Gary, who is his name is Newland, and he is the gentleman who handles the artist and repertoire element of our productions.
Yeah.
But our production business, like our company, is that we're Unforeseen Productions, like on flyers and posters, and that's what we will be. Unforeseen Management is the name of our actual company that we're busy.
Okay, just to tease that out a little bit more, and then I have one more question after that. The corporate status of Unforeseen Management, is that just a trade name where you're the sole trader, or are you in a partnership or a limited company?
At the moment, it's a partnership, and we're working towards becoming a limited company.
Yes. So you and Gary are the two responsible partners?
Yes, it's just the two of us.
And do you have unlimited liability, or are you a limited liability partnership?
At the moment, it's unlimited because we're just operating as a basic partnership.
As a pair of sole traders, really?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, thank you for that. And then I was going to ask about the stewarding details. I think you've partially answered that.
What we have is a situation where we have three SIA door supervisors.
Yeah.
And then the staff are all, the main ones, like the bar manager, Gina, Errol, myself, I'm always present. Well, we can act as steward and answer questions and things like that. To employ stewards to do that, we'd then have to train them, and we could do the job better ourselves, and we're there on site.
Yeah, please do. Yeah.
While we're talking about that, just want to talk about the dispersal. What happens after 9 o'clock when everyone is off? I'm just looking at the timetable. How are you going to be managing that?
Well, the thing is, actually, what happens is the live music itself, if you look at the program, actually ends at 7. And then we've got, the reason why I left an hour was just in case that we did have to deal with any issues or noise, and that would still fall within the boundaries of the license. But we aim to have the venue closed at 8 o'clock. And so we wind down from 7 until 8 with quiet recorded music. The last song from the band will be at 7 o'clock. And then what happens from then on, last time we did it, there wasn't any issue. People left, fairly quickly. There wasn't a lot of noise. There wasn't a lot of conversation outside the venue. And the door supervisors ushered people out, and we cleared the space quite quickly. Within 25 minutes, we were clear.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. And I like the idea of the calming, quiet recorded music. Right, okay. Thank you. Sorry, I just interrupting.
I noticed in your email, you'd gone to great lengths to look at the effects of noise on the ambient levels. And we wondered, what, in your paragraph there, you said you climbed up the railway fence and the music was drowned out by the sound of cats.
Yeah, you couldn't hear the music. I couldn't hear the music. Even with the measuring equipment, we couldn't pick it up.
What noise were the cats making?
You could hear cats meowing.
Yeah.
Like around, there's like bins, there's like an access point where there's some vehicles parked behind the 256 Portobello Road building. You know, the flats, and you could hear the cats, and you could clearly hear cars coming past on the Westway, and you could hear people talking on their mobile phones over the music. But you could pick up the slightest little bit of music, but it was like literally a whisper at that side.
Okay, well that leads to my serious question. Do you have any track record, you've hinted, any track record of running these events? And have you ever had any problems with noise? And have you ever been refused a temporary event?
No, the only concerns that we've ever come across was the concerns that Keith had about sound clash, about doing it on a Sunday. And then we agreed to do a test on a Friday where we monitored everything, and two gentlemen from Keith's department came out and they did tests as well. I met them. It was fine. It was really good to meet them and just see what they were doing.
So
and
have you run events in the past?
Yes.
In this borough?
Not in this borough, no. I'm new to this borough. Yeah.
How many have you done?
Over the years?
Yeah.
Well over 200?
Really, yeah.
Yeah, I've been doing them since 1995.
And you've never had a hint of a complaint?
Not as of yet.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. That was very, very good questions, which were getting down more into the detail. Thank you. I think the committee has no more questions, so I'm going to open questions to you from our legal team.
None from me, Chair.
No. And then, Mr. Mahaffey, do you have any questions?
Madam Chairman, I have one question. This is the precursor to a number of events where you are looking to operate as under a premises license at some stage in the future. Is that correct?
That is the goal. Yeah, that is the goal.
Okay. Thank you very much, Madam.
Thank you. And licensing, do you have any questions? No. Okay, so now we're going to move on to Mr. Mahaffey on behalf of the Environmental Health Noise and Nuisance team, who has objected to the TENS. Thank you.
Can you hear me effectively now, Madam? Right. First of all, I'll commend Mr. Scully for providing a detailed professional documentations, and I do accept he's gone to a lot of trouble in regards to providing something for us today that hopefully will show the type of operation that he's hoping to provide at the premises. Irrespective of what Mr. Scully's been doing, there is another premises next door. It's a very finely balanced circumstances whereby there's live music taking place in Bay 58 on a weekend basis. We have had a lot of issues with regard to those premises over the years, and what we have is very much a type and style of music that can only be generated on. We can't have anything with a lot of bass, something more of an acoustic nature. They have to take sound levels within the arena to make sure that those levels don't exceed a certain level, because if that music exceeds a certain level, then it affects the residents over in Tavistock Crescent on the other side of the railway line. And there has been a lot of issues. We have had to work very hard with the operators of Bay 58 to get to that stage, and unfortunately when we have the odd rogue musical event that takes place there where the levels have not been maintained, we get complaints. We've also got a lot of very sensitive residents that are on the other side. And this was part and parcel of the conversation that I had with Mr. Scully before we actually did the event. Originally, he wanted to have a Sunday, and I said to him, no, I would be of the opinion that would be a problem. So we decided on a Friday evening. I'm not against these community events taking place. My concern really is this a location that is suitable for a regular event when you are competing with another operation in a neighbouring bay? The building, the Westway, the bays under the Westway, they are not built as sound studios, they're not built as premises, they are very much open to the air, and to actually soundproof them, you would need to do a lot of work. Now, there is redevelopment plans for the bays at some stage in the future, so nobody is going to spend a lot of money doing major sound insulation works to the bay to contain the sound inside them. And our visit to the premises on the 10th of September this year, when we gave a temporary event notice to see how the premises performed, basically demonstrated that there was breakout. There's no sound lobbies inside the doors. When doors open, the music comes out. And as a result from that, we were able to hear the sound over on the Bladegrove Road side of the premises when the door on the side next to Bay 57 was open. All those issues give me concerns that if that music is escaping, then the operators in Bay 58 will have to increase the volume of their music, and the fine balance that we have with regard to the potential nuisance to the residents is going to be much greater than what it would have been had there not been this competitive operation. I have no issues with what Mr. Scully is doing. What I have the issue with is very much the level of sound that can be generated through the cumulative impact of both premises operating simultaneously. And if one of the music venues interferes with the influences the other one, then the levels will have to come up, because people in Bay 58 will want to have levels of sound that are clear and quality sound within the bay. They don't want to have to hear somebody else's bass music coming through. And unfortunately, reggae music has a very low frequency base which can escape the structure. Now, it's basically that. My view is, if we are going to go down the route of looking at two venues, either we're going to look at very much a soundproofing of Bay 56 to a higher degree, something that's going to contain the sound of the use that Mr. Scully is providing. Until we get to that stage, I feel that this is not the appropriate location for this type and style of event. And if we grant it, then my concern would be, with competing sound systems, higher levels, potential public nuisance to residents, it not only causes a breach of the requirements on the statutory nuisance side, but it also could result in Bay 58 having to increase its level and causing a public nuisance, which would then result in the enforcement action that we would have to take for public nuisance in neighbouring properties. Whilst I appreciate that Bay 58 doesn't have any specific conditions for live and recorded music because it's deregulated up until 11 p.m, it would be something which we may have to consider addressing through a review application to make sure that the premises licence requires all music, both live and recorded, to be licensable at all times the licence is in effect. And that it can have an enforcement sanction on the operators of Bay 58 who will be what's the word I'm looking for? Who will be joint, or not the word, sorry, I'm having a senior moment, who will be also creating the nuisance, who will be joint liable to create the nuisance to neighbouring residents. That is my concern here, madam. I would prefer to see this event take place at another location within the Westway Trust, and that has always been the option that I have been describing to Mr. Scully. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mahaffey, for that. So just to summarise, your main concern is about two lots of sound competing against each other.
Yes, in a nutshell.
Okay, and it's not about numbers of people or public safety, it's about sounds coming out of this premises and sounds potentially then coming out of Bay 58.
Well, if the event is to go forward, then clearly the risk assessments that have been done and event management plans will have to reflect all the mitigation that is required to deal with the public safety. And from reading through Mr. Scully's report, that he's more than capable of providing that information as part of the documentation.
Yes, understood, but it's sound that concerns us today.
Yes.
Thank you. And on that, we have nothing about Bay 58 in front of us. We don't know what their schedule is or their event situation is, so...
What Bay 58, it has a license, madam, and it basically operates on a Saturday and Sunday. And on a Sunday, it will be operating, I think, up until 7 p.m. In the evening. I think that's correct. And clearly, that would be happening simultaneously to the time at which this event would be operating at Bay 56.
And there is, of course, Bay 57 in between the two.
Yes, Bay 57 is like an external area for Bay 58.
Yes, it's an open area.
Yes, madam.
To some extent. Okay, I understand. Questions?
Mr. Mahaffey, is there any way we can find out, or can the operator confirm that there is definitely an event at Bay 58, yeah?
There is an event in Bay 58 every Saturday and Sunday. The lady who Caroline's behind is she's here, and she's one of the directors of the Bay 58, and she could answer any questions in regards to that. But my understanding is that there is an event on a Saturday and Sunday in Bay 58 every week.
And then would it be, I mean, if this was granted, and your objection is based on the cumulative noise impact, would this be something that would take council officers time, that they would be there outside the premises and would take some measurements, and if the council found that things were breached, would that have consequences, i.e. could the event be stopped, or would it count against the applicant's record that he had breached noise levels and created a nuisance, and that would influence his future plans?
What I would say, sir, is we would have to rely on complaints that we receive. We would also have officers in the area, we would make them aware, but again, the public nuisance is on people's premises. It's not what we'd witness in the street. Yeah. We'd have to actually go into somebody's property. I have an awful lot of knowledge of the effects of Bay 58, for I've been to see the residents on Saturdays and things like that, and I've been inside their properties when bands have been performing, and we've been basically setting levels, and an awful lot of residents are very sensitive towards the noise from the events that take place under the Westway. At the end of the day, we would have to deal with the complaints as they rise. And we would also work with Mr. Scully. You know, whilst we have an enforcement role, we also have a role to assist people get things right if events are taking place. But clearly, you know, from my perspective, I would prefer to see this event take place on other days of the week or at another location when we don't have a further event taking place in Bay 58.
So, taking that point on board, effectively, this is almost like a trial run, and if residents do complain, and the council will have officers on hand, and will take those complaints, and if a nuisance is established, that will affect the future plans of Mr. Scully and his partnership, because he will have created a noise nuisance.
Yes, that it's also sometimes better, as they say, to give somebody a rope to hang themselves with, or our ability to walk away demonstrating you're feeling your concerns are not there. But clearly I have to put forward my concerns with regard to this, and clearly I'm very grateful for you and your fellow councillor for making a decision on this application.
Could I follow up with one other question, Chairman? When you say that Bay 58 is licensed for live music, is Bay 56 similarly licensed?
Bay 56 used to be the old Portobello pop-up cinema, and it had a license which has now ceased to exist. There is no license on Bay 56 currently.
Hence the need for a tent.
Yes.
And then does it have a planning use as a concert hall?
No, it doesn't. It is used at the moment for drumming and some music for community involvement. We get basically we get complaints about drumming on a Sunday, Tuesday and Thursday evening, and it can go on later. But that's nothing to do with Mr. Scully and his colleagues. That is something because somebody else is using the premises late in the evening. But it demonstrates how low frequency sound can escape the building, and it can also show that it can be audible in the neighbouring premises. And if you have music in one premises which is of a low frequency, it can totally distort the quality of sound in the neighbouring premises. And that's basically it.
It was the planning point I was worried about, because environmental health, it's not really your job to advise on planning issues, but I wonder if this applicant has checked with his potential landlord that this premises has actually got a planning use as a concert hall.
What I have done is I've written to Westway Trust basically to confirm the fact that there has been permission for these type of events, and clearly they have not responded as yet. I've had to write on a second time. I've been told that I will get a response, but I haven't received it as yet. The issue really here is that the same landlord gives permission for Bay 58 as well as Bay 56. And basically, you know, he has a contract with Bay 58, basically to provide a certain duty of care and ensure that his operation is not caused issues by other decisions that they have made. But that's a contractual agreement between Westway Trust and the tenant. It's not something which noise and nuisance would be involved in. But the whole...
It may affect the future, because if planning enforcement find out that this space, this bay, has been used for a purpose for which it does not have planning permission, Westway Trust will be enforced against, and it would not be allowed to happen again.
Precisely, but it is for Westway Trust to make sure that by giving permission, if they give permission for this, that all the appropriate permissions are in place.
Yeah. And then finally, sorry to go on so long, in this plan that Mr. Scully has very professionally provided, I noticed there's reference at the top of the plan, the site plan. It's got some odd spellings. It talks about a cavity wall, a fiberglass and a membrane, but all of those are sound insulation measures, and I'm not sure from this diagram where the sound insulation is actually supposed to be. Is it just behind the stage, or is it round all four walls?
If I could assist, when this was a Portobello cinema, it's more critical for noise ingress into a cinema. For the enjoyment of the people watching the film. So what they have done is they have built a surround into the bay and tried to encapsulate it, and that will have an acoustical performance. But again, the acoustical performance is only as good as the level of sound that you generate inside. If you generate something which can be contained inside the premises, then it will work effectively. But if you then generate something higher, then you will get a certain level of sound that will escape the premises. And it's that we need. And what Mr. Scully did on the 10th was he had the side door open into Bay 57, and that's when all the sound came out, and that's really where the weaknesses in the structure were basically identified.
That was going to be my last question, Chairman, if I may. Then Mr. Mahaffey and I are both engineers and are used to dealing with scientific measurements and so on. And we do know with other cases that if you have a kind of like an airlock, like double doors, that can be very effective at containing sound. And so I wonder if you've advised that if, for instance, the doorway on the right-hand side, the ingress into this area, or indeed into the venue itself, if the applicant provided that sort of double door effect, even temporarily using acoustic blankets, do you think that might have an effect on reducing potential sound nuisance? And that would be in their interest, because then they wouldn't cause a nuisance and they would not be enforced upon.
Well, this is a conversation Mr. Scully and I did have, and we discussed the need for acoustic lobbies as one door opens, another one closes, so that you actually contain the sound. The building's only as good as its weakest link, and its weakest part of the structure is where the sound will escape. And that's the whole essence of the structure, is to get it to as high an acoustic standard as possible, so that we contain, as far as reasonably practical, the sound within the premises.
And that would be in their interest. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Mahaffey. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. It's good questions about sound attenuation, and also I suppose that could also relate to Bay 58, although they're not in front of us now, but again, sound attenuation on Bay 58, if that is your concern, that they're going to suddenly up their volume because of what's going on in Bay 56. And does Bay 58 have double lobbies?
Bay 58 is an open area. The way in which sound is managed there is through the type and style of the acts that are there, mostly acoustic acts, not using drum kits. I think they do more of a drum machine, but they also manage the levels, and they take sound levels, and those levels, once it exceeds a certain level, that's when they bring the level down, so that they know that if they exceed that level, it's going to cause a problem. If they maintain that level, it's not going to cause a problem. And the way we deal with that is through the liaison with the residents who are affected. And they're not slow at coming through and telling us when there's been problems.
Thank you. And looking at the map, I assume it's primarily residents in Norfolk Mews. But it's coming out the front rather than the back. It's not so much Tavistock in this instance.
The beauty of Acklam Road is the fact that because of the westway, an awful lot of the buildings that are in the area have all been acoustically treated to stop ingress of external sound. The main problem has been mostly to do with Tavistock Crescent. Now in Tavistock Crescent, all the non-habitable rooms are overlooking the railway line, with the habitable rooms on the Crescent side, on the opposite side of the building. And as a result, we've had problems with music in the habitable rooms at the front from Bay 58, and that was part of the measures that we put in place. So it's very much a case of managing levels, monitoring, and hopefully understanding how the dynamics of the sound propagates to neighbouring residents.
Thank you very much for your expertise on all things sound related. Thank you. The committee has no further questions. So, Mr. Scully, you have a chance to ask a question or a couple of questions to Mr. Mahaffey, if you wish.
Thank you. Mr. Mahaffey, I just wanted to ask you, well, it's more of a statement than a question, really. Was that I did?
It has to be a question, please.
Did you manage to find the original plans from the cinema which show all of the audio treatment?
We haven't got those on file. I did look for them on our system. I don't think the cinema's original treatment has changed significantly, because there hasn't been major changes to the structure of Bay 56. So I would be of the opinion that the quality of workmanship and structure is the same today as what it had been in 2000, and I think it was 2016 was the last time that the license was was in place for the cinema. It's not. It's before that. It's probably in 2014. So it's a long time in situ. It may have degraded a bit, but it doesn't look particularly bad from when you and I met on site.
Okay. And the other question is this. After our test event, where we conducted our own audio analysis and were in control of the output of the whole sound system and the performance of the artists, did you have any complaints whatsoever from any person of the public?
We didn't. What I would say here is we made our main complainants aware of the event taking place and to get their perception. Unfortunately, everybody was out of London that weekend, so I couldn't get a response on that. But you know, at the end of the day, when we didn't have particular significant issues with what you did on the Friday evening, I'll hold my hand up and say that. It's purely the fact that the levels of sound can influence the neighbouring property. You know, you have a very professional outfit. The conversations you and I have had over the last month or so demonstrated that you are quite professional in your approach to this, and that you understand and appreciate the way in which the sound can escape and cause issues. But clearly, I still have that concern in the back of my mind with regard to the influence of your sound.
So I'm just going to jump in here, just about the test event. So there were no complaints about the test event, and it was Friday evening. What were the hours of it? I know it's in the email, but the hours of the test event?
It was from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. and then we did a cool down period until 11.
Right, so that's later than what the 10s we're looking at now, which is a daytime event. And I'm sure residents who had been away would have been back by 8 or 9, and I'm sure if there had been issues, they would have not hesitated in coming forward. So I think that's good news that they didn't. I understand that it's not at the same time as another event in Bay 58. I do understand that.
Madam Chairman, I have no issues with the premises having a standalone event. That is not why I'm here.
It's the timing of it at the same time on a
Precisely.
Sunday. I understand. Legal, do you have any questions, please, for Mr. Mahaffey?
No questions from me.
Licensing, any questions? And we're coming to the end of this hearing, and I just want to loop back in with licensing governance. Has anything been brought to your attention during this? No. So the committee is going to retire to a closed session to make our decision, and we're going to try to come back and actually announce our decision today, so all parties can know what's going on. So we're now closing this hearing for now, and we will come back by 2:30. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. We're now reconvening the licensing subcommittee. We are bringing our decision, and the committee has considered all the evidence and documents regarding this TENS application at Bay 56, Acklam Road, for an event on Sunday the 3rd of October 2021 between the hours of 12 midday to 2100, 9 p.m. In summary, the committee decided, after taking into account all the individual circumstances of the case, not to issue a counter notice under Section 105 of the Licensing Act 2003 for the event. This means the event can proceed on the dates and times specified for the licensable activities specified in the TENS. A copy of the reasoned decision will be provided without undue delay. Thank you all very much.